Absolute pleasure to speak to you. So simple, keep it really easy to begin with. First things first, how are you doing? How's things going at the moment?
Yeah, really good, man. Really good. Can't complain. Well, can't complain for a Monday anyway. You know what I mean? Sun's shining, um, out and about. You know what I mean? So yeah, all pretty good. How about yourself?
Yeah, no complaints either. First day of second day of a week off of work, so no
Oh, good man.
complaints either. Do you know what I mean? Yeah,
That's
what are
what
you
we
up
like to see.
to? You said you're out and about.
What
What
am
are you
I?
up to?
I part of my job as well. I actually manage a music venue. So well basically just been out sort of like stocking up today. We've got quite a lot of gigs on this weekend, so yeah, literally just been stocking up today, making sure everything's sort of like ready for the weekend, and all the start of the week jobs. You know what I mean? So
Well, let's give a shout out to the venue. What one? Of
it is the Hairy Dog in Derby.
course it is. There it is. A very, very famous venue. And as you say, a ton of bloody gigs, man. Yeah, well loved. Never actually been myself. I've never been to Derby. Obviously being in London, don't travel out much. Everybody comes to us in the city.
Yeah, that's fair. Hey, come down, man. I'll sort you out guesses for a show if there's any show you want to come to. You know what I mean?
Fair enough, much appreciated. Talking about the band, what's going on with you all at the moment? Of course, the single Tyrant has been out for a little while and been really well received.
Yes, mate. So yeah, Tyrant is a it's a bit of a weird one for us really, because Tyrant was always meant to be a very standalone kind of single. It was meant to be one of those singles where um we had a very very particular message that we wanted to write about. We had something very very specific that we wanted to go for. We've us as the band, we've been to Ukraine quite a few times. And we have a lot of friends over there and a lot of people over there that we hold very close and dear to us. So we kind of, when that song came about, instrumentally it was written in the first lockdown, and we kind of just banked it for years, because never really sort of knew what to do with it. And yeah, when it sort of came about, the song kind of wrote itself. This is all sort of like in amongst everything that was happening at the time. When we decided to bring the band back together, it's kind of like when everything started kicking off over there. And we'd always kind of wanted to do something that was in a way giving back. You know what I mean? So we wanted to write it not just as like an oath kind of thing. And a lot of people sort of like have done stuff to write things about what's happened and the horrible sort of like states of it all. But us kind of knowing people and being involved, how we were, it kind of like had a very very special place in our hearts. So we wanted to do something that was a bit special with it.
It's got a frustrating, even fresher relevancy even today as we speak, right? It's going to continue to have it,
Yeah,
really.
yeah, it's one of them really. Like as horrible as things are, you can only do so much to help. And like we wanted to do what we could with the platform that we had. You know what I mean? Like we knew that if we were to post a song and at least do some stuff, especially with a lot of the charities that were kind of like putting forward and stuff like that. If we could do anything to sort of help, then that's what we were sort of aiming for really. And we did. There was a lot of people. It went out across the media in Ukraine as well. And obviously we consistently posted up the link for the charity link and stuff like that. And we had a lot of people messaging us saying that they donated. And we try to do as much as we can with what we had. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that's all you can do. Are you satisfied with the response, like the sort of general feel that people have had of the track and what they take from it?
Yeah, definitely. Because I think the difference for us is that this wasn't necessarily a song that we wanted to kind of like. It wasn't really a song where we wanted to push the band, so to speak. It was more pushing the message. So we weren't. It's very weird to say, but we weren't really bothered about what people would perceive of us as a band releasing the song. We were more bothered about the message of the song and how that was perceived and how that went out. And it's
Mm.
especially when we were discussing it with our press guy Tom. Like we the specifics behind it all and the logistics behind it all was we want to make sure that it's known as what it is about, rather than Swan Amongst have released a new song. It's like, we want to inspire this message and we want to push that out. So there's, all eyes of the world are on what's going on at the moment. And we just wanted to make sure that, there was no crossover with that. You know what I mean? We just wanted to make sure that there was no sort of like focus on just us releasing a song. It's like, you know, this is the message, this is important, and people need to be aware of it. You know what I mean?
It's difficult balance to get though, right? Because I can see your thinking and completely get that. But obviously, you've got to use your tools as a band, that the tools that you've got available to you from social media and so on and that kind of thing. Did,
Definitely.
did you struggle kind of getting that balance where you didn't want you guys to be the focus necessarily, but you're gonna be?
Yeah, well, we when it sort of like originally came to writing the song, you know, we were faced with a lot of opportunity. Like we were faced with a lot of differences in it, like in the first point anyway, where it was kind of like, you know, we need to realize that us releasing a song is going to be the forefront of any kind of like promotion that we do, because we're a band, you know, it's naturally what everybody does. But also at the same time, it was one of them where it's like, you know, we just want to word it in such a way where if, for example, it, you know, came out into the press, it wasn't too focused on just us being a band and releasing a song. It was very much focused on you know, everything that was sort of happening. It was more focused on the message that we were trying to promote, more than that. So yeah, there was definitely a balance, and I think that the balance came from how we promoted it. You know, it was more sort of like, again, it was more very focused on the message, rather than just the song itself. I think that the song was more that sort of like that beacon of, yeah, it's like we're releasing something, but you know, in all like the run-ups, in all the little teasers, in all like the press releases that we did, all that kind of stuff, it was very, very hyper focused on, you know, the actual message of the song and the reason why we wrote it, and why it means so much to us. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think your message cut through as well. While it is a banger track, you are right, that it was always at the forefront. It felt it, whether you read it, whether you listened to it, whether you just looked at a blurb on YouTube, for example, and so on. It was all there, front and center. But you said already, it wasn't necessarily part of a bigger picture. So what currently does the bigger picture look like for Swan Amongst?
Um, to be fair, it was one of them. So we came back from this hiatus, because we all missed playing live. We all missed being in the band. We all missed being together. That was the main importance. And I think the reason why we went on the hiatus was because, you know, we in the year of 2020, when everything did shut down, you know, we had a load of tours that were booked in that were going to sort of, I'm going to use the phrase life changing. And you know, some of the tours that we were on were going to sort of like shoot us into that next level. And because everything sort of like got cancelled at the time, you know, we were, as much as like every other band was as well, you know, we were kind of like forced into a bit of a, well, this is, you know, this is not great. Like, this is not a great situation. And I think, you know, by the end of the year, you know, the label was sort of like asking us for what was next. And we'd been writing anyway, like earlier on in the year, sort of like March time, we'd been in the studio. The last song that we released before the hiatus was a song called Crucify. And we recorded that in the March. And it was planned to sort of like go and release later on in the year. And there was already talks about sort of like tours happening in 2021 and all this kind of stuff, and like, you know, the potential of it all coming back again. But there was just so much uncertainty. And I think with everybody was kind of like struggling a little bit in their personal lives, with everything that was going on. So we kind of just, we opted to do the only sort of like the only sane thing that we could do at the time was just sort of step back until, you know, everything, you know, step back for the foreseeable future until everything was a little bit more clear, as to what we can do. And then yeah, like, you know, Jonny the drummer and Liam our vocalist, they're both the original members of the band, and they kind of, over that lockdown period, kind of rekindled their relationship. You know, they'd not spoken for a lot of years, so they kind of like rekindled their relationship. And you know, Jonny gave me a call one day, at the start of 22, and he was just like, look, like, you know, what do you think about having a jam again? Like, you know, we don't need to do anything specifically, like we could just have a bit of a jam. And I went up to his house, and just me and him, and like I bought my guitar and stuff, and we just started jamming through the old stuff again. And, you know, it felt right. You know what I mean? It felt fun, and I'd missed playing the songs, and I'd missed playing live. You know what I mean? We'd always sort of said, even if we didn't do anything, even if we didn't, you know, make it a career or doing stuff, as long as we get to experience what we get to experience, and do the stuff, that's the important thing. And that was the approach this time around with the band, is that we're doing it because we love doing it now. We're doing it just because it's fun. Like, we're not doing it to you know, make it to the heavens, or, you know, go and like, you know, get $1 million record deal and all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? It's like we kind of like come back into this as like, you know, we need to do it for fun. Like we need to do it for the reason why we enjoy playing music, the reason why we love touring, and the reason why we love writing music. And that was the message going forward.
Is it fair to say that you've never previously had that headspace, the idea that it should just be for fun as much as possible?
I think the problem was is that I think a lot of bands agree, is that when you get to like, when you get to a certain level, like you always have like different tiers of bands, and when you get to a certain tier where you're touring and, you know, you're playing with bigger bands and you're playing bigger festivals, and, you know, you get signed and you've got agents and managers and all that kind of stuff, it becomes very real, and it becomes very much that's when it becomes a very, not a dog eat dog kind of world, but it becomes very you know, everybody's fighting for the same meal. You know what I mean? Everybody's fighting to get on the bigger tours. Everybody's fighting to get signed. Everybody's fighting to get on the big festivals, and, you know, write the best music that they can and all that kind of stuff. So I guess in a way there probably is an element where you do forget that, you know, the reason why you're doing this is to enjoy music. And we've seen it so many times. Like, you know, we've got friends who have, you know, quit music because of how just how competitive the industry is, and not competitive as in like, you know, everybody's against each other and it's a race, but it's, you know, it is competitive in the sense of like, you know, you're submitting to get onto these bigger festivals, you're submitting to get onto the bigger tours, and there's 100 bands in that line at the same time that are also trying to do the same thing. So it's almost competitive without being competitive in a sense. And, you know, it kills a lot of people off. You know, it's when you don't get that opportunity, or, you know, somebody else gets it, like, you're so happy for them, but also at the same time you've not got it. So at the same, in that sense, you can't help but be a little bit gutted. So I think, yeah, at a point, especially sort of from 2017 onwards, you know, we were in a bit of a change where we were sort of like going into a new chapter of the band. Like, we'd had a couple of lineup changes, and we were trying out a new sound. We were trying to go a little bit more modern, go a little bit more sort of like, you know, writing specifically for something rather than just enjoying it. And I think after that, you know, when the whole social media train started like blowing up a little bit more, and Spotify blew up even more, and you know, everything did become very, very serious, and it all became very real. And you know, I think a lot of people agree is that you're not necessarily in a band anymore. You know, you're a social media manager, you're a marketing personnel, you're everything at this point. So yeah, I guess there is probably an element over the years of where we got very burnt out from what we're doing. You know, we toured quite a lot, and we did a lot of festivals, and we did a lot of really cool stuff, but also at the same time, it takes a lot of effort. Especially we were DIY for a lot of years as well, before we had a manager, before we had a label, before we had anything. So we did everything DIY for a long time, and a lot of bands are sort of like in that same position. But I guess when you're doing it all yourself, and you're booking all your own tours, and you know, you're doing all your own marketing, and you doing all, like everything else, you know what I mean, it becomes a very, very big task. And I think it's probably only natural. It's only natural as humans that you kind of you lose one element and you try and go to another element. And I think that's what we probably fell victim of, which is, I think, why we burn out, is the honest truth.
So the fact that you're aware of that is incredible in itself, because it would be so easy to ignore that and forget that and just think years have gone by, we all feel a bit better and so on. How are you going to avoid that happening again?
Because we've all gotten a lot older, and we've all, you know, gotten a bit more experienced. Like, you know, like for some of us, we've been in this for a long time, and you know, I'm kind of even just sort of like managing here, you know what I mean? Like, I'm very direct into the music industry at this point. So it's, you know, and same with some of the other guys as well, you know what I mean? Like, they've all got their sort of like their hands into various creative outlets. So yeah, like we've just all grown as people. Like, we've grown as people, we've grown as musicians. You know, and individually we all sort of like came together with the agreed sort of like process that we were just going to do this because we love doing it. And that's the forefront of it. That's the important thing. If we don't get anywhere, so be it. Like, we just enjoy playing live, and that's the approach going forward.
What a wonderful mindset to have. And I tell you what, when you obviously came back from your hiatus, dipping your toe in, sort of tipping your toes and see what's going on, the phenomenal response to your return, the shows, that incredible run. That must, even now when you're reflecting on where you are right now, what you've got planned this year, you must still be kind of amazed that it's gone so well.
Yeah, dude. Like, well, the original process, like I said, like when we first came back, we wanted to do those two little sort of like intimate shows in our respected hometowns. Because you know some of the other guys are from Hull, and
Mm.
some of us are sort of like from the Midlands. So you know we wanted to do two sort of like specific shows in our hometowns, and both of them pretty much sold out. And you know the response that we sort of like had from it was phenomenal, and we had so many really good shows, and it just kind of all came together all at once. Like a lot of the stuff that we did last year, just all very much came like one after the other, and we didn't really sort of plan for it. You know, we just sort of like we was like, you know, we're gonna play this couple of shows, we're gonna write a load of sick music, and sort of like, you know, do what we want to do, and like, you know, like make it our thing this time, not like what anybody else wants us to do. Like we're going to do exactly what we want to do. And then yeah, like, you know, we did a couple of festival appearances, and you know we did a handful of sold out shows last year, and you know, ended off the year with a couple of tours, one in Ireland and a couple in the UK, you know what I mean, and then played the UK Tech Habilitation Fest, which is the last one that UK Tech Fest was ever going to do. So you know, we were pretty honoured. But this year specifically, we were sort of like, you know, we're going to limit every show we play. Like we're not going to go out and do anything major until a good opportunity comes up. You know, we're being very, very selective with everything we do, which is why we haven't really done anything. Like we've got a couple of shows booked in. You know, again, we've got a couple of festivals this year and a couple of sort of like little one-off shows here and there. But again, like our manager Joel at the moment is working on a lot of stuff, and we've got a lot of stuff planned in. But again, it's just all very specific. You know, we're kind of just being very selective going forward on what we want to do. So yeah, this year is a very big music year. We're focusing on writing the best material that we've ever written. You know, instead of just focusing on trying to make what's trending at the moment or what the market's saying or anything like that. It was like, no, we're just going to write music what we enjoy playing. First and foremost, and if people like it, people like it. If people don't, people don't. You know what I mean? I think so many bands over the last couple of years tend to focus on writing what other people are going to enjoy listening to, and not focusing on what they want to play and what they want to write. And I think that's important, because you end up losing the element of what we said earlier. You end up losing that element of what you got into it for in the first place. And, you know what I mean? You didn't get into this to write music for other people. You got into this to enjoy writing music for yourselves and write the music that you love playing. So that was very important to us this year, is that we just focus on that primarily.
Without going into too much detail, because obviously I imagine you want to keep a lot of this quiet, it's expected that we will see new music from you this year. Yes?
Yeah, that is the aim. We're sort of, you know, we took a very long break in between releasing singles. You know, the very first one, Restitution, being in March last year, and you know, Tyrant coming out in January. And there was a reason for that. You know, Tyrant got pushed back so many times. Like we were gonna release it in September last year, just before we went on tour, and it didn't feel right. It didn't feel like right time, so we just kept pushing it back, and with everything that kind of like everything that was going on, like we didn't want, especially given the message of the song, like we didn't want anything surrounding it at the time. Like we didn't want any of our sort of like accolades or anything that we were doing at the time to take anything away from the message of that song. So we was like, you know, we want to release it when we've got nothing around us at the moment. So like there's no noise, there's no anything, there's no sort of like there's no tours, we're not on any big shows, we're not doing anything. So we're going to release it in the middle of everything. And that's exactly what we did. But yeah, so we can expect some music this year from us, and it's going to be what we've all like. The reason why we all got in a band. That's
Okay.
what kind of what style it's going to be. It's going to be a big mass. It's going to be, you know what I mean. It's all part of a bigger release, and all part of a lot of bigger plans that we'll announce later on in the year. But yeah, a lot of stuff's coming. A lot of stuff.
That's all I want to hear. That's simply fabulous to hear. And it's insane, really, that your origins can obviously be traced all the way back to like 2010. too. Have you met any fans who have been with you from, say, the 2004 demo?
Dude, funnily enough, like, so I obviously I wasn't part of the band at that time. I joined sort of like back in the 2016.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's a bit of a weird one because the guys, like I said, Jonny and Frank, well, we call him, his name's Liam, but we call him Frank. Jonny and Frank kind of like being the original members. You know, they started the band back in the early 2000s, and it's a bit of a weird one because they never sort of like it was just like a band at the time that they were just loving doing, like they were all in school, and you know they were doing bits, and they didn't really sort of take it seriously until sort of like the mid sort of like 2000s, you know, getting on into sort of like 2008 2009. You know, when the album Severance came out, and you know they were on tour with Annihilator and Gamma Bomb, and they were going to Europe all the time, and they did Download and all that kind of stuff. So it was, you know, it was one of them where there that sort of like that period of, you know, being in a band for 20 years this year, you know, the band being 20 years old this year is it's a massively special thing. And yeah, like, you know, we've met people that have, you know, been involved with the team, with the band for a long time, and you know, people who have, you know, people like, for example, we've played shows when we came back, like we had people that flew over from Europe to come and see us and stuff like that, that like came to the UK just specifically for these shows. And like, you know, seeing people with Sworn Amongst tattoos and stuff like that on them, it's phenomenal, man. It really, really is.
It is incredible. Yet here you stand in 2024, which is so important
Mhm.
because you've witnessed so many changes in the music industry over this entire 20 years, but also considering your own personal life, you yourself are quite clued into all of these changes and how things adapt and so on. But obviously, this often comes from a very negative stance, whether it be streaming, the pressure of social media, and so on. I'd love you to think of, if you have one, a positive change in the industry over the past, say, 10, 20 years that you think you benefited from.
I think realistically, people are now aware. Like there was a lot of leeches in the industry, where
Hmm.
they would sort of like take bands for a ride, and you know, like we were, not to go into sort of like names of people, but you know, we were signed to a label a long time ago, like many years ago. And same, like we were sort of like our friends and the guys who Bleed From Within, and were on the same label as us at the time, and we both got screwed over massively by
Hmm.
this particular dude. um and there's a lot of people like that. There was a lot of people in the industry, but I think the good thing about recent times is that more people are cracking on, like more people are cracking down on these kind of people, and they're getting called out, and they're getting sort of like rinsed, um which is really nice. And it's kind of, it's giving that bands the ability to work with people who actually are all about the music, and all like are just invested in the band in general. And that's the important thing. You know, it's one thing to be in a band, and it's one thing to get a manager or to get an agent or to get something like that, but to have somebody that's really invested in your
Hmm.
craft is really important. And I think, you know, the opportunities that a lot of venues are given now as well. You know, there's a lot of venues, a lot of grassroots venues that are closing down because they're just not getting the shows in, or they're not getting the support. And people like the Music Venue Trust are coming by and buying so many venues. Our venue being one of them. And you know, they are investing so much money into these grassroots venues, which is giving bands that ability to be able to play shows. You know, if their favorite bands are coming on, and you know, they get bought on as local support. You know what I mean? It's a massive thing. So it's great to see. It is really, really great to see.
On that front, you know, sticking with the kind of grassroots venues and the smaller sort of clubs and pubs and venues that we have across the UK, and how many
Mhm.
we lost post-COVID period, the pandemic, lockdown period, should I say. You're obviously quite clued into this from a person that maybe doesn't really pay too much attention to this side of things. What's the most basic level way that a person can help?
Um, I mean, realistically, man, it's always the same kind of thing. It's going to shows, it's supporting these local bands. You know what I mean? I think what a lot of people don't seem to remember is that all their favorite bands were local bands at one point. And you know, they were all fight, albeit the, you know, the industry's changed a lot since, you know, the 80s, the 90s, the early 2000s, and all that kind of stuff. But I think what a lot of people do seem to forget is that their favorite bands were once local bands. They were in the same position that you were in. And I think it's gotten a lot better since COVID. I will say that. So, you know, post-COVID, you know, pre-COVID, everybody was struggling. Like, nobody was really going to shows. Not a lot of people were sort of like supporting their local scenes. But then, you know, you get a lot of your unsung heroes that are at every single show, and we have them as well. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we see regulars come in for so many shows all the time that just support music, that just love live music. And I think that's the biggest thing. If you've got a local band that's coming to your town and you've got the night free, and you know, people who sort of like spend their evenings and they don't know what to do, go to a show. If you enjoy live music, go to a show. You might have one of the best times. You might meet some new people. Like, it could be anything. And also as well, you're making that band's night. You know what I mean? That those extra couple of people that come into the show always make a difference. And if you go up and you've enjoyed it, and the band knows that you've enjoyed it, then they can go to bed happy that night. And that's an important thing.
In theory, we all win. Everybody wins.
Yeah.
The band, the venue, the person buying the ticket or going there just checking something out. Everybody wins.
Literally, yeah, literally, man. And that is in its most simplest form. That is what a lot of people can do. Is, if you know, just support your local scene, support your local live music, and you'd be surprised how much of a difference it makes. Just you being there, like, it really does make a difference.
Speaking about shows then, is there any particular one coming up for Sworn Amongst that you're really, really excited to do?
Yeah, dude. So we've a couple of them that we've got this year, but one in particular. So I've got a good friend of mine called Harry White. He runs Hammer Down Fest, and he works ridiculously hard. You know, he's a very, very good promoter, a very good person. He's just got into artist management as well, and he's smashing it. He's doing phenomenal at that. And yeah, he puts on Hammer Down Fest every year, and it does ridiculously well. You know, the lineups are phenomenal.
Yeah.
And you know, when we kind of came back off the hiatus, you know, I speak to Harry quite a bit, and he sort of like said, you know, like, let's get Sworn on it. And being at the legendary Concord 2 venue in Brighton, you know what I mean, it's going to be a phenomenal day. And there's some incredible bands, and we're playing with a load of friends of ours, like bands that we've played with before as well. So, you know what I mean, it's going to be a great show. That one specifically, I'm looking forward to. I mean, I'm looking forward to, you know, we've got Slaughterfest as well. In May, that's going to be great. There's so many heavy bands on there. It's going to be a great day. And yeah, just all of them, man. It's going to be great. Yeah, we're supporting Suffocation as well. Suffocation are signed to the same management as we are. So that's going to be great. You know, we've spoken with those guys quite a few times before. Yeah. It's going to be great to meet them, actually meet them properly in the flesh. You know, they're being American and us being in the UK. You know what I mean? It's always going to be nice. So yeah, and that one's going to be a sellout. So that'll be a great show to see as well, and be a part of. So yeah, all good stuff this year, man.
Yeah, that isn't it. Well, you may not have as much as you say planned this year. What you have got is big stuff, big shows, and of course a long-term plan. So I guess the last one I want to ask before I let you go, and it just pertains to this year as a whole. What's a realistic goal then that you kind of want Sworn Amongst to achieve before the year ends?
This year specifically was all about writing music. You know, we initially sort of like came into the band again, like I said before, you know, we initially came back into the band to focus on what we enjoyed doing, and the reason why we got into the band in the first place. So yeah, this year is just, the main focus is to write the best music we've ever written, and you know, something that we're all equally proud of, something that we can sort of like listen from front to back, and just be completely blown away by what we've done and what we've created. And just have something that would stand the test of time, you know what I mean? For however long we continue to be a band for, you know, whether that be a year, whether that be 10 years, whether that be for the rest of our lives until we can't do it anymore, you know what I mean? Like, we want to write something that stands the test of time for us personally. You know, something that we can look back on in 5 years' time and go, yeah, like, we're proud of that still. Like, it's still something that we're ridiculously proud of. So yeah, that's the biggest goal for us this year, is write the best music that we've ever written.
It's an easy goal for you to achieve because I know you absolutely already do write killer music. So the idea that you will be doing the best work that you've done to date, I 100% believe. We look forward to seeing what it is. But for now, of course, if you want to know a bit more, go check out Tyrant, as that's out there, and I'll get a nice little song for you to enjoy there. And of course, the show is upcoming. Social media is all over there. You're quite active on social media as well, aren't you?
Yeah. We try to be. We're on all of them now. We've just opened a TikTok as well recently.
Oi!
We try to avoid that for a while. But yeah, it's just one of them. We have so much random video footage and so many random things, and we were just like, we'll jump on the hype train. You know what I mean?
Ash, I really appreciate taking the time to do this. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Mate, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure as well.
Thank you very much for watching. If you'd like to see more content like this, please consider hitting the subscribe button. It is gratefully appreciated. You can find us over at gbhbl.com, our full website, where reviews, news, and so much more goes up daily. We're also on all social media platforms: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Threads, at GBHBL. Just search for GBHBL and you will find us out there. We also have merchandise on sale. You can access the shop via the website.